Rasti. So firstly, I want to welcome you to Mimi Meets. And
thank you.
So yeah, I just wanted to say, like, all I've been thinking about is Joyland, like the power of that film. I don't know what it is. It's just like, it just sticks with you. I wanted to ask you a movie mad question. So yeah. So what's the first film that made you fall in love with cinema?
Oh my gosh. The first film. Okay, when I was a kid, I have to say we were watching like Disney films, right? That was what we had access to, based on like the story and the characters, and it had some like really cinematic shots. I think it would have to be Mulan, because I was like, I feel so much for like the dragon. I feel so much for this woman who's playing a man. Like it was such a powerful story. And then I remember that scene on like the side of the mountain with the avalanche, like the music, the score in that scene, like the stakes are so high, like your heart is just thumping. And I remember watching it just being in like awe. But also I remember just watching Gladiator on repeat. Like I think I was like 10 or maybe younger, and Gladiator would play on like we used to get Star Movies at the time, and it would just play on repeat all the time. And I remember the whole family just like hunched in front of the TV. It was just such a powerful film. And it's such like, it was a quintessential hero story. Your heart would like break, and the setting was so beautiful and so powerful. So I remember just being like drawn to those films. And I remember talking about films with my siblings afterwards, and just we had this awareness that we witnessed something that was very special, but it was also an awareness that this was something that would happen in some other part of the world to some other people, you know. And so, which is why, like, in my 29th year, when I got to do like my first feature film that's done so well, it's like, it feels a bit weird. It's like, I'm not supposed to be here.
Yes, you are. You were just amazing in the film. And yeah, you're like a chameleon. And I was like, that's such a great way of kind of describing you, because you just can't tell this is the same girl. Mumtaz and Rasti, there's such a big difference like between the two. And so what kind of inspired your journey into films?
So I always liked participating in school plays. That's kind of how it began. We used to like anywhere else, like even Pakistani schools that I was going to, we used to really like our like annual school play, or like we'd have like a little fair or something, and there'd be a skit. That's what we would call it, like the skit of the school. And I think my earliest memory is I was 4 years old, back when I used to live in Lahore, because I've traveled to a bunch of cities afterwards. But I was 4 years old, and there was this performance that they'd set up for our school that called all these parents. And I just remember I was Statue of Liberty, and I was standing there. My costume was like this unstitched piece of white cloth. So I didn't even feel like I had a costume. And then I think I had like a crown of some kind. And then I had this thing that I would hold. And I remember my teacher had said, look, Beta, if you get tired at any point, you can like always switch your arm. So because I was standing at the back, and there were all these performances that were happening in the front, like little skits or whatever. And I remember I would just stand there and go like, my parents are watching me and I have to do a really good job of this. And then my arm would get tired. So I'd go. So I remember doing that was my earliest memory. And then I just have memories of like being in different cities and different schools, but always participating in these school plays. And I don't know if my teachers dragged me. I know at a later stage in my life, maybe around 5th, 6th grade, I was like hunted by teachers to be in the school play, because by that time they'd spotted something in me and they knew I was good. I could do, like, if somebody was doing Snow White, then I could play the evil grandmother, because I could laugh in like the crazy way that they wanted me to laugh in, and I wasn't embarrassed to be on stage. And so, but before, I don't know, it just started happening, and before I knew it, I was always in school plays. And that's when I realized that I loved being on stage. I loved, like, kids around me were scared. They would get like nauseous. And I'd just be like, okay, what do you need me to do? I'm here. And So that's how it was. Like, it was just school plays, and then eventually I think I started, after I graduated, I started theater in Lahore.
Yeah.
And I was doing theater in Lahore, and I was meeting new people, and I just shifted to Lahore a few years ago, so I didn't really know a lot of people in the city, but I was getting to know people. And then eventually I think I met Simon in college.
Yeah.
And he was 2 years my senior, and he was applying to Columbia at that time, and he had a script for a short film. And he said, do you want to be in it? And I was like, I've never seen myself in front of the camera. Like, I don't know what it's going to be like. And except I did it, and then I saw myself on camera once he released it on Facebook. And I remember watching it going like, I could believe myself in some bits. I believe who this girl is and what she's going through. And then I was like, I quite enjoyed this process. So then I did a bunch of other short films. I think, what was it, 7 years after Simon and I did our first short film, he reached out to me for Joyland.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it happened. But I think I knew I was always really, really in love with this art. But I was really afraid to go for it because nobody in my family had done it. Nobody in my family had, become an actor. I had gone to college. I had like a degree in like literature. I was a literature major, history minor. And I was like, if I start pursuing acting now, I'm probably going to face a lot of flack because my family's going to be like, but we educated you, and only uneducated people act, because, they have that. So I was like, I can't disappoint them. I need to do something worthwhile with my life. Like, acting is just like a passing thing. And then I think sometime over the past 2 years is when I was like, oh, wait, hang on. No, I love this to death. I don't want to forego this. I want this to be the main like propulsive force in my life.
Yeah.
And then I guess that's when I became an actor. Oh, yeah.
That's so beautifully said. Like, and that short film you were talking about, I watched it, The Letters of Mikhail Muhammad.
Yes.
I loved it. I watched it, and I just Zoya is so cute. I was like, oh my god, like, and actually, like, when I watched the first time around, I was like seeing hints of, okay, she's kind of struggling with the menu. And I was like, okay. And then when you watch it again, you're like, yeah, you can see the hints, like even at the beginning of the film, like she doesn't know about like half the stuff that he's gone on about in his letters. And this is that kind of time when you must have talked to Simon for the first time. And
that's the magic of like a classic Simon Sadiq story. I think by now he really doesn't like this film because he considers it like a really novice piece of work. But I have so many, like, it's my first short film, so I'm very attached to it still. But it's a classic Simon story in that, it's you watch it again, and then so much of it just comes together.
And actually, the fact that she doesn't ever call him by his name, is that because she never has read his name before, so she doesn't even know his name, because he's always talking to her as Zoya, but she's never called him by his name. And I was like, so that's such a beautiful story. I was like thinking, oh, this is, and I actually saw it on YouTube. It was on YouTube as well, and so it's on YouTube.
I remember when it was released on Facebook, there were all these people who were like, but what was the secret? What did he want to tell her?
Everyone was thinking,
and they were really mad. And I was like, see, that's where we wanted to get you. That's the point that we wanted to,
because she can't read the secret, and she can't tell anyone to read it for her.
And I was like, you will not know either. That's the point of the story. So haha.
It wouldn't have had the same effect, actually. If we had known the secret, it wouldn't have had the same effect, because the fact that with Zoya, you don't ever know the secret because she can't see the secret. So what makes you have the right to know the secret when she doesn't know the secret herself? So
I remember one of the days on the shoot for that, when I think that was the day that it dawned on me that this whole film business is terribly, terribly exciting. Because there's a scene in the short film in which my character Zoya gets out of the restaurant where she's been talking to this gentleman, and then she runs because she has a sense of urgency to her, and she runs home. And so we took one day out to shoot that running scene, and Simon had put like a camera he detached the camera to his car and he was like, now you're just gonna have to run. And I was like, wait, so do I run straight? And he was like, no, I'm just gonna wind through different streets and you just run wherever, just take me wherever, or just follow my car. And I was like, this is Lahore, this is
I was
like
just about to
defense.
say, like, how
Lahore,
safe was that process?
Yeah, it was defense. It was fairly safe, but it was also Jummah time.
Yeah,
it was the end of Jummah. So there was like a group of men that was returning, right, to their shops and their homes, because they just said Jummah namaz. And I was just watching them and I'm like, okay, they're gonna watch me run about a bunch because we're gonna do several takes. And I didn't care. And I remember I must have run like a bunch of times to get the right take, but I did not care. And I was like giving it my absolute everything. And I was running in chappals, which wasn't very comfortable, and it was hot, but I remember running and knowing that sometimes the camera was in front of me, sometimes the camera, like Simon was driving parallel to me, and just feeling like I was Tom Cruise and this was it, it was and I remember just being very excited by this whole thing. And I think that was one of the days when I was like, my gosh, this is so thrilling for me. And when I feel like I'm doing it right, it just lights up this fire inside me that I want to always feel. So I know Simon like looks back at this whole experience and he cringes a little bit, but for me it's still like a very special.
I thought it was really special. So take me back to like that process of like now filming Joyland in Gwalmandi a year ago. So talk about that process, about like how it was.
It was, well, I think I mentioned this at a bunch of other places, but I'd actually met, or I'd heard that XYZ people had been cast in Joyland. And so I had still not been approached because I was the last person that Simon spoke to. And I was sitting in Lahore. I was like, oh, they've probably already shot it, because Simon shared the script with me in 2020, so they must have shot it. I'd met Ali by then and I was like, well, he's obviously gonna kill it. And then I'd known all the other people who'd been cast as well. So I was like, oh, it's probably wrapped and, whatever. And I was sitting there like dejected and feeling a little bit sorry for myself. And then I remember Simon called me and he said, hey, so do you remember that script? Like, do you want to be Mumtaz? And I was like, are you serious right now? Like, my first feature film with you, who amazing. I know like to be an exceptional storyteller. And then he told me about the rest of the team. He told me about Joe, our cinematographer. He told me about Kaval Kusut, who was going to be in the arts team. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is an exceptional team. And I was like, yes. And then I remembered the first stable read that we did. I think that was in August of 2021. We were at the Kusut office. All of us sat around this table. Sarvat had flown in from Karachi. I was meeting her for the first time. And we sat and we did the table read, and Simon, Sana, and Tabish Habib, they alternated like reading the directions. And then we were all masked, by the way, because it was COVID times. We couldn't like fully see each other's faces, so we were just looking at each other's eyes and also just reading through the script. And then afterwards Simon was like, okay, so I want to hear you guys' thoughts about it. And at first, like, he spoke first. I remember finishing the script and being in tears. In fact, there was this one moment where I was supposed to say a line, but my tears were streaming into my mask, and I was wearing glasses, so I was like, maybe they won't realize. So I just raised my hand to Simon. I said, just give me a minute, because I was weeping. And then I finished my line. Then we finished the reading, and then Simon spoke about what the script meant to him. And I remember just being in awe at that point. And he said, wherever the story goes or however we interpret it, what I want you guys to keep in mind is that at the end of the day, this is a story about empathy. And that's how I've written every single one of these characters. And that's how I want you guys to think of every single character and to treat every single character. And I remember just taking that in as like a very vital piece of information. And then Ali Juneja was seated next to me. And then he spoke. I think he spoke at the end. And he was like, there's a silent wail of anguish that's buried in this script. And I remember listening to that and going like, my gosh, that's spot on. And just like snippets of everybody's feelings and thoughts. And I was like, I'm just going to hold on to all of this. And this is what I'm going to use to like stitch together the soul of this film for myself. And then we started shooting, and I remember showing him to the house, Gawal Mandi, and just being in awe because it was the most stunning house ever. It had so much character, and they'd gone over it like completely, from the wallpaper to the paint to the floor to the tiles, everything. Gawal Kusar and her whole team, they'd redone the whole house, and I was like, this is a stunning house. And then shortly afterwards, I saw how that same beautiful space was also, or particular scenes turned into like I mean, it was a very open house. It had like a lot of open spaces with, and it was turned because of Joe's magic and Simon's magic and people who were handling the set. It was turned into like this claustrophobic, empty, hollow like space. And so it was really exciting walking into set every day and seeing, well, just generally walking on set every morning, and seeing everybody show up to give their absolute 100%. There was just this incredible spirit of wanting to do our best. And I remember every day, like everybody would show up, we had a central courtyard, so we'd sit down, we'd have like a snack or a coffee or a chai, we'd say hi, hellos, and then everybody would go to their own stations. We'd go upstairs to the costume room. I would have to get my mole done. Oh my gosh, every day I would have to get that mold on my face. Yeah, which was like a whole extra hour and a half of makeup. It was painful, I will say. And but it's also fascinating because I was like, when else am I gonna have like a mole on my face? But it was almost a 3-person operation, by the way. Somebody holding. Yeah, thanks. And then we just started shooting the film, and I remember there were days where it was just my scenes with Sarvat, who was playing Nuchi, and those were supposed to be, and it was actually hot in those days, but it was also supposed to be like where it's supposed to be, blistering hot, and we're doing all of these tasks that are very laborious, but it was still fun. It was always fun.
Even filling
minus
up
like
as well, like those scenes.
The cooler, and like there were a bunch of other things as well. Some of them didn't make the cut, but like it was a bunch of household chores that we engaged in. And so it was just so much fun to work with. She'd bring such excellent energy, and it was really lovely and very important to me that I was playing a character who shared a deep friendship with another woman in the house. Another married, like a daughter-in-law. And that fact that they don't fully understand each other, and they do have very severe kind of divergence in terms of like what they want from their lives and what they think a worthwhile life is made up of. But they still manage to come together to converge on what is important, and they have this beautiful friendship. And the fact that we were playing this as two Pakistani female characters in a story was so important to me. And I remember some of the tense scenes as well, like the dinner table sequence. It's a fight that happens, and it was all of us, like the whole family, and it would mean like 12 hours of shooting, just to get one scene done. But I would be over the moon. Like I've described it like this somewhere else, but it was like camping. It was like I went camping for 2 months, and I was away from home and family and responsibilities and all of those things, and we were just having fun every day.
This is emotional, raw energy there. It's just completely like, it's not trying to be something else. Like, like usually you see that there's films that kind of have this thing where they're trying to be other films, but then this is actually it's just so comfortable in itself. And that's what I found when I watched it. When you first meet Mumtaz, like in the beginning, she's like this fiery-eyed girl, like who's kind of independent with that scene when she does like the makeup in the dark, and she's so excited and fulfilled. And then you see that kind of like unfulfilled life she then goes on to have in the house. And so I thought that character writing was so emotionally rich. And that was actually one of my favorite scenes, that angle, like you used to see the back of your head. And when she's kind of being told, kind of like, you know, Heather is working now, so what's the need for Mumtaz to go to work? And I love that scene, especially like that, like it was just so beautifully shot, like from the end, from your point of view. You just see from Mumtaz's point of view, like her head.
And no, I agree with that so much. Like your earlier point about the film not like trying to make you feel anything. It's just in the way that it's been written. It's in the way that the different choices that characters make, how it's been performed, and how it's been shot. So this dinner table scene, like Mumtaz loses something, perhaps the most important thing, over the course of like a few bites. And it's devastating because by that time you've seen her, you like her, she's a likable character in the film. You like her, you root for her because you've seen her do so well at work, and you're like, my gosh, like this girl knows her shiz. And so and then before you know it, she loses her job. And that shot for me it is so stunning, because I'm sure her face would have had like anguish or anger or pain or hurt, given that also that this is the first time in her relationship with Heather that he didn't have her back, in the way that they're used to having each other's back. That's the basis of their relationship. They have this fierce loyalty and friendship and care towards one another. And it's so unfortunate that for these two who are fine on their own are now put on this track where they have to diverge, because if he has to work, she has to give up her work. So if he's on a path to like self-fulfillment, she has to give hers up. And it doesn't have to be this way. It's being forced on them by the family. And he is unable in that moment to stand up for her. There's like a fracture in her relationship with her husband. She's been asked to like let go of the most important thing in her life. And you don't see her face. You're behind her because of the music, because of the cinematography. You feel sick in your stomach. It's almost like you've conspired to do this to her. For all of these reasons, like it was just such a brilliant choice of storytelling and cinematography. It just grabs you and puts you somewhere. It gives you a seat and goes like, front row, now you watch what's going to happen.
Yeah, it puts you in the hot yourself. So you feel like you're that character for that moment.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, well, we talked about Sion, like he's such a masterful director. I'm just in awe at such a young age to have this sort of incredible, masterful storytelling. There's so many incredibly subtle nuances like throughout their film. And like, because he's not completely shoving it down your throat, like being preached over it. It's completely like in the background, like there for you to see and kind of for you to kind of explore. And so what is that process when you work with Sion? Like how do you kind of do a scene with him?
It's actually very easy, because he comes to you and he goes like, okay, you have my written word. And I think this is, if we take it in this direction, if these are the kinds of things that you try, then it could work really well. And then I would go like, okay, cool, yeah, I know, I like this. And then I was also thinking, and then I would just say some thoughts or feelings that I had. And then it was either he would go like, yeah, actually that makes sense, or I'd go like, actually no, what you said makes more sense. And then we just take it from there. So, and this was like for small scenes, big scenes, he was always open. He gave you, and it was such a lovely thing for him to do as a director, but he gave you all the space to try out however many things you wanted to try out. But in his mind, he also had a fairly clear idea of what he wanted. So it was also not like he threw you into the deep end and then you were like flailing your arms about trying to figure out what felt good. He would always like literally direct you in where you had to go. And so this would happen in practically every scene, but I think I needed it most for the stuff that happens in Act 3 of the film, specifically in relation to Mumtaz. And I remember having like several conversations with Sam about it and trying to figure out if there was like an alternate ending or just thinking as deeply as we could about this one. And he was always up for that. In fact, a lot of the times he would message me and go like, so I'm still pondering this, or I'm still thinking this, what are your thoughts? And just knowing that you can trust this person to contest what they're saying and what they think is best for this character or for their film, and be open up and be vulnerable with them. It was just really a very, very treasured feeling as an actor. So, and then generally, like he's so light and chill and fun on set. Like I don't have a memory of a day when he was like pissed off or anything. I think like it was always good fun. In fact, I remember all the other people on set being like, this isn't happening on time, or this, or and he would just be like the chill guy. So it was really lovely that way. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, he does come across as really laid back and kind of chill. Yeah, he's at such an important like time in his life. But like it doesn't come across as like completely, it doesn't come across as frazzled or anything like that. It's just, you know, he knows how to kind of like process inside. Like,
absolutely. And here's the thing, he's probably not, like, he would think he's not doing it as well, but I say this to him every time, whenever we travel, whenever we go to screenings or in Q&As, or when he has to introduce the film, or just generally, like, he's had something so momentous happen in his life. All of our lives have upended, but his in a particular way, because he's the creator of this, right? And he is being lauded all over the world, and he's like, it's a lot, and he handles it with so much charm and grace, and like chillness, like always. Just, and I know from inside there's probably like a whirlwind happening, but he just has this ability to like contain everything, and also always appear warm, and always be able to joke about anything, and never take himself too seriously. And those are qualities that I find really, really just charming and attractive. So
there's no ego, like, you know, usually see like there's always like, oh, okay, they know they're too good, but like there's no, absolutely zero ego there. And that's what I love, like, actually, about all of you guys. There's so many accolades coming your way, so much recognition, but like, you're just completely genuine, humble people. And that's what I think makes people love the film even more. Like, that's personally my personal feeling. When I watched the film, I was like, the people who are involved with it, so charming, so genuine. I just felt a lot of love for you guys, I must say. Like, in such a short space of time, I felt a lot of love. Like, there's always a lot of love for you guys, like the entire cast and crew of Joyland. Honestly,
I feel so fuzzy right now, Mimi.
No, honestly, I felt that was when I met you guys at Lina's apartment. I was like, these people are just so kind and like welcoming. Like, you don't feel that like about most people, like, especially in this day and age. But like, didn't that sort of, like, that sort of warm and welcoming feeling you get from somebody? You used to get that back in the day, but now everyone's so busy in their lives.
Thank you so much.
Like, yeah, honestly, like, it was so fun.
Way, to be honest, like, we feel the same way when we receive this. It's like, like, I can speak for like myself, Alina, and Ali, because we've spoken about this before, but it's like, wait, we're newbies, right? We're newbies. This is our first feature film, and we're going to all these countries, and it's phenomenal. People like shower us with love and support and praise, like, every time. Especially happened at BFI, because there was a private screening, and then they'd arranged for like all of us to hang out afterwards, so it wasn't as limited as a Q&A. We just hung out for an extended period of time, and people would come up to us, and they would just open their hearts towards to how they felt about the film, or what our characters made them feel, and just be curious about us and what we like or don't like, and where we're from. And you know, I mean, we've been welcomed so nicely. And sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, oh, well, I'm a newbie. Nobody has to do this, you know, because they're in this industry, I will say, in Pakistan and all over the world, we really subscribe to the whole star power of somebody as well. So I'm always aware that this is something that I don't have. And to be honest, I don't really seek it either. But I'm aware that that's a thing that plays into how much attention somebody gets, or whatever praise somebody gets. And so I've been on the other end of this very sentiment as well, where you're just taken by surprise, and you feel so lovely knowing that this mutual kind of respect and admiration is there. So yeah,
I felt like that 100% that day. And actually, speaking of all the other actors, like Ali, I was like completely awestruck. Heather is I was like, how is this guy the same guy? Like, Heather is so different. And then, you know, when he was like talking at the Q&A after the film, I was like completely like, is this the Heather I just watched for the last 2 hours?
Yeah, like, yeah, I know. I had that experience, by the way. I had that experience live on set, because I had obviously met Ali during rehearsals, readings, all of that stuff. And then I was called on set. And my first day on set was actually my last scene with him in the film. You would know which one I'm talking about, but I'm not gonna give that away. But it was that last scene with him. And so I remember just seeing like so his character approaches me and I look up and I see him, and I remember just going numb because I was like, where's Ali? Because like it wasn't just the fact that his costume was like so and so, or his hair was done different. It was the look in his eyes. The look in his eyes was of another human being. And I was like, I've never witnessed this happen as an actor. How is he doing this? And then the whole duration of the film, in all our scenes together, I would experience him as Heather. It's really weird for me to like talk about this or to communicate this, but it was this feeling that you felt. You were like, wait, where is this human being that I'm talking to? Yeah. And I would feel this on set with him every day on scene, like during scenes, because I'd be like, oh my God, he disappears and this is Heather. And so in my mind, those two people are so different. There's like a complete demarcation, between them. And I can talk about Heather, and in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that's a completely separate human being, and Ali is like this human being next to me. But I think it's just, again, like, he's such a phenomenal actor, and he has such a beautiful grasp on the task at hand, which is to bring a character to life, right? Like, he understands it with so much depth and sensitivity, and he poured all of it into Heather. And I know it was a painful process for him because of the character that Heather has, and it was a painful process for him. It wasn't easy at all, but he gave it his absolute everything, and the result, I mean, you can see the result. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard somebody say this in front of me, like after screenings. They're like, wait, and it was so funny because when we went to, this is a really funny story, when we went to Cannes, he actually had like longer hair. He could tie it up in a bun, and he had a very long beard. So he physically looked different from Heather as well. And people refused to recognize him. They would watch the film.
His past just to see, are you the same?
Yeah, they would like, we've been in interviews when somebody was like, they realized after the fact that they were interviewing Heather, right? We've been on dinners with people where people were like an hour into the dinner, they're like, oh, you're Heather? So it's really funny. But it wasn't just the beard and the hair and all of that stuff. He actually transformed.
It's the movements as well, like the sort of the characterization is completely different, like, to how he is in person, like in real life, like the way he was, like how he's composed in real life is just not at all like Heather.
And the look in his eyes, I can't get over that. And it's funny that you say to me that when you said at the beginning, you were like, oh, you felt nothing like Mumtaz. I disagree. I think I'm so envious of Ali for this. It's like he's unlocked this thing, right? And I haven't yet unlocked it, because I feel like when I watch Mumtaz, I can still trace a few times, like a bunch of places where I go like, that's me, that's not Mumtaz. Or that's like a very Rastified version of Mumtaz. We did a play together as well, and I see him do this every time. I'm in awe of it, and I really, really want to be able to harness this. I hope I get to do more work with him, because like the more time that I spend with him in rehearsals or on set, I learn so much.
There's a true method, like he just goes really method. You can tell, like he could.
I try to talk about it without using this word, because I know this word makes him cringe. So I will talk all around it.
It's true though. Like, it's kind of like the Daniel Day-Lewis style. Like, like
he would die if he heard you say this. That's like his god.
No, he could be like the young South Asian version of Daniel Day-Lewis.
Please tell him this. You will make his
year. How I'm going to tell him this. He's not on Instagram. I think he refuses to have Instagram, I've heard.
Yes, he's completely anti-social media, which is a decision I feel like I'll soon adopt as well. But I'm telling Mimi, you made his whole year. Trust me, you should have him over on one of your chats, because he really, it took him.
Convey that message to him.
I will. It was a lot, and I know, and like sometimes some of it was funny, like when he would still be in Heather mode on set, but I know that it was also painful, especially after the movie wrapped. And I suppose like he might talk to you about that, but yeah. But again, like, it's just, I also really respect that, because you really have to go very, very deep and far to be able to breathe life into a character like that.
It's honestly like, and actually, like I actually know someone who kind of reminded me of Heather, and I'm thinking, Like just that sort of the way he moves, the way he talks, the way he looks, the look. Yeah, it's all in the look. Like the way he stares. Like I was just all completely awestruck. And also, speaking of awestruck, Alina, I loved.
My gosh. My gosh.
I mean, absolutely love Alina in the film. She's brilliant.
That character, I mean, hands down, I think anywhere we've gone with the film, any country, any continent, that's like everybody's favorite character. She's so good. And she looks so incredible on screen when she like harnesses all of the power that her character has. It's so wonderful to watch. And I also know that she worked so hard with Simon after Darling. And she worked so hard on this character. A lot of the times, like, she was in the writing room with, I mean, there was no writing room, but she was like metaphorically in the writing room with Simon because he would write Biba's lines or scenes, and then he would ask Alina, would Biba say this or would she not? So she was involved to that degree. And unfortunately, I wasn't there when, I don't have a lot of scenes with Biba in the film, and I wasn't there when the Punjabi dance theater scenes were being shot. But I wish I was, because they're so incredible. They're so magical. And just as a performer, as an actor, she's so good. And then she just brings like this flair, which is her natural, like distinctive Alina Khan stamped flair.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, it's sort of this sheer confidence. She just like, she walks into a room and the room is hers. Like the way she walks in, she just commands that presence. Like she's like, she's like, okay, I'm in this room now. Like, and
I'm
actually,
here. And it's so funny. We're all getting dressed, or even before that, when we're like picking clothes, and then we land in a country, and then we're getting dressed. She's like a nervous wreck. Okay, she's like, how will this happen? How will that happen?
She mentioned.
And then
in real life.
And then as soon as she's all dolled up and now we're at a screening, like Alina, the person, also just commands. She's like, there, she has arrived. So it's really incredible to witness.
I love that about her, like the fact like she can like just switch into this sort of super confident person. I just love that. I wish I could do that. Just the way she does. Like bringing it back to Punjabi as well. Like, you know, across the world, people forget that people in Lahore predominantly speak Punjabi. Usually people forget that. People think it's just going to be like some Ghalib type poetry going on. Everyone converses to each other in Urdu. You're bringing Punjabi into like the sort of mainstream, where people who probably didn't know much about like Pakistani culture, like they're learning more about it. They like Pakistan, they think is in the Middle East, and it's completely wrong.
I know, but also I would also say, like, in my travels this year with the film, I've also realized that people have this other misconception, which is that they don't have a separate like identity in their head for Pakistan. They think Pakistan is still India, right? Like like in terms of language or in terms of culture or whatever. I think I suppose because they have far more exposure to India, right? Because I mean, they do so well, and they produce a lot more work, that they don't really have a lot of knowledge about us anyway, and so they kind of subsume Pakistan into India, which is, and I think one of the reasons why I would get asked so much that, you know, I get asked, oh, you don't have an accent, and I'd be like, no, this is my when I speak English, I'm very aware of the fact that I have a Pakistani accent. Like, otherwise I would have the American twang, or otherwise I would have the British accent or something, you know, but this is the Pakistani accent. And so it's
they think everyone sounds like Apu from The Simpsons. That's what they think.
So in that way, I was also really happy. I mean, we had to deal with a lot of some really dumb questions, I will say. Like, I have to be, some of the questions would be so dumb, but again, it's because they don't know anything about us or what we're like or how our societies are or anything at all. So that way it has been fun. Like, I remember just being in the theater in Cannes during a screening, and just for a moment just realizing that every character on screen right now is speaking in Punjabi. they're making fun of one another, they're being assholes to one another. It's all happening in Punjabi, set in a Punjabi dance theater, and I'm surrounded by all these like very white people who are consuming this, right? And I was like, yes, this is excellent. I love it.
We were sitting next to like a lot of people who in the front row, a lot of people weren't actually Asian. So they were reading the subtitles and they were laughing their heads off like at the subtitles because they were understanding exactly what's going on. It had the power to resonate like with people around the world, because people who aren't South Asian, who don't know the language, but they can still kind of understand the emotions these characters are going through. And that just shows that the power this film has. Like people who don't even know the language are laughing with you guys, they're crying with you guys, and that is exactly the main part of the success of Joyland, I think, has been.
I 100% like endorse that message, because we've experienced that like firsthand. We've taken this film to like one of us or like the whole crew has been to at least like, I want to say 6 countries with the film, and I've been to, I think, 5 of those. And anytime that we've gone, the demographic has obviously been different of the audience, right? In Zurich, just like 2 months ago or a month ago, it was a predominantly white, much older audience. Like I think most of the average age in the audience must have been like 38. And a lot of them were even far older than that. And I remember the post-screening Q&A, and then stepping out of the theater after the Q&A ended and people came over, everybody was kind of shaken, and they were moved, and they were also like pained, but like it was somebody had written to me online, and they said, you know, the film makes me feel equal parts excited and ill by the end. And I feel like that's a great way of summing it. That's what everybody feels when they walk up to us. And I feel like this and so what you said, that all over the world, no matter how old you are, which part of the world that you're in, whether you've had exposure to Pakistan or not, you can watch this film and be moved. And the second thing that like I think is the most incredible about this film, which really is like its power, is that people, it stays with them. Like the number of times that I've had people tell me face to face or message me later and go like, it's been a week, I'm still thinking about it. It's been a few days, I'm still thinking about it. And you started,
I honestly like the end stayed with me for days. Like I've never kind of like experienced that, watching something like that in a cinema on screen. And I'm like, this is so like, I didn't even know how to process it. It made me speechless. And that's exactly how I felt. Like even after watching the film, I was it took me a while to kind of even process the film, because like, you know, you have like these thoughts like flying around in your head, but then like kind of like just thinking about it a few days later, I was like, oh my God, yeah, this is what this film made me feel. And that exactly, like even like I actually mentioned like last week when I did that little small thing for Instagram, and actually Saim loved that. He said it was just one of the sweetest things, but that's exactly how I felt like when I watched the film. That was such like honest truth that I felt, and those last 15 minutes like literally stayed.
They burrow into your soul, and then they sit there. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And I'm kind of, to be honest, I'm a little like, I'm so thrilled that when this film releases in Pakistan, like my family and my friends can go and watch this. But I also kind of like, I know what they're going to go through. The last 15 minutes, I think, are going to be really emotional, especially when you watch it with your family. Yeah, it's kind of that you have to really make sure you don't kind of spoil anything. Like my parents, I was going on about, I love this film, but I know they haven't seen it. So I can't say too much. Like, and in the UK, I read it's not coming out till February. So yes,
there's still some time. It's actually coming out on their anniversary. It's coming out on their wedding anniversary. Dads. So it's coming out on the 24th of Feb. I said you should go and see it.
My gosh, that is the coolest. That would be the coolest thing ever. Like somebody went and saw Joyland on their anniversary. I mean, that's it. I made it as an actor. Made it.
That should be their date night, to do that on their wedding anniversary, because like
Maybe do something like in which they can come out feeling a little bit like yay, like yeah, and not like
going out to dinner or dancing after the film, just to kind of get
yeah,
also.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
but no, it's true. Like even like every single character, I absolutely fell in love with. Like even like Nuchi, I love Nuchi Sarvat's acting. Like she's so different, like in real life. Mumtaz and Nuchi's friendship, like they're completely different. Like their ideologies are completely different about like the babies and the baby boy and all that stuff. But like they can still go out and have fun. Like that scene, especially when they actually go to Joyland,
Yeah.
they're like just having fun, letting loose.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that scene, it's so lovely. Like even like
I love that scene so much. I love it to death.
they're having fun,
It's
and the
just
neon lights.
yeah, yeah, because like they're away from like their
Kids and all that stuff.
partners, their kids, the father-in-law. And they're having a ball, and they're both carrying like pain. Both their lives are difficult, but in that moment when it's just the two of them, just
So
having fun, yeah, like having some kind of like freeing, abandoning fun, like where it's just, I wish all women to be able to have at least one day in their weeks when they get to just do this. That is, go to like a place in which they can just be indulgent in merriment and joy and adventure, and go with their female friends and do stupid, silly things, because we're all just always so, we're asked to like contain ourselves, and we're always like burdened with like, can't do this, shouldn't do that, what. And so it's that scene for me, like yeah, it's just very important, like
it's the first time
and
you see them like completely free, like
mm,
those two characters, like completely
yeah,
free, letting go of any sort of inhibitions and any problems they're going through at that point in their
yeah,
life.
yeah,
Completely free. And then
yeah.
even as Nuchi's kind of like begging for forgiveness on the top of that.
By the way, that was all improv. Like that was like Sarvit is actually terrified of heights, and she got onto this ship thing, and then we were just like, yeah, then she just started, like we started, and we knew we had one take because we weren't going to force her to do it over and over. And then she just started like shouting all of this stuff. So I had to stay in character, but I was dying of laughter because I was like, what are you saying? And
It's
she
so
was right
funny.
here, and it was
So
hilarious.
funny.
I know, and I had to like keep reminding myself. I was like, no, you're laughing at Nuchi, at Sarvat right now, but and Mumtaz will also be laughing, but her laughter comes from a different place. Okay, so forget about this for now. And so it was actually like a curveball that I had to like deal with, but it's such a lovely scene. It's one of my favorites. But you're right, like Nuchi's character is so wonderful because she represents like this strange coming together of two very opposing forces, in that she's convinced that till she births a son, like she's not a complete woman or a complete mother, like her value is tied to her uterus, really.
Yeah.
And she's also resigned herself to the fact that yes, she will be a mother and a wife, and she seems to have buried her dreams of like being an interior decorator. And but at the same time, like, when she sees Mumtaz working, she's fine with it. Like I imagine when she comes home, or like she doesn't begrudge her for not staying at home and taking care of the kids, or none of that. She's not resentful towards her, she's not jealous of her. And so, and then she also ends up taking pride in the fact that yes, if I've had to set my dreams aside, I will, and if this is what I'm supposed to do now, I will do it to the nth degree. I will be the best mom and the best wife and the best caretaker of this house. And it was just really refreshing to see in like intricate and complex characters, female characters like this. She's not just like some like miserable, jealous, like other
No.
sister-in-law or anything like that. So You're right. And then she's like, you see how the movie begins with you experiencing her pain because she's birthed her fourth child. She thought it was going to be a son, and it's not. And for the rest of the film, you see her be like this joyous light. But you know that she isn't just that, because those are the pains that probably keep her up at night. Those are the deep, dark conversations that she probably has to have with her husband. That's probably what they cry over, you know? And still she's like this, she brings so much light to that house. And so yeah, all of these things, all of these like little aspects of the film, they're just beautiful in my mind. Yeah,
I thought that as well, and I think the cinematography as well, like what Joe's done, it just captures like the true essence of like the entire city. I think because like even like one of my favorite scenes, you know, with Heather and Biba when the neon lights are flashing across their faces with Heather and Biba. I love that scene. Like it's just so, I know it's like that sort of Andruni share, like that it's captured perfectly. And I think that's
yeah,
what I think as well in cinematography is so
yeah,
strong.
yeah. I feel like if I start talking about Joe, I will like burst. I will like burst into like, I don't know, butterflies or something, because like I feel, maybe you can tell by how animated my hands have gotten, but like I feel so much just like I'm in awe of this man's work. What he's done in Joyland is phenomenal. I mean, I remember being on set. I remember this one day, we were gonna shoot a scene. It was a daytime scene. We were gonna shoot it in like this little corridor that leads to the bathroom. And the way that he set up the camera, there was like a little bit of like the panel of like of the side door, right? You could just see it. It was creeping into the frame of the film. And I'm watching Joe spend like 25 minutes trying to get like the perfect way in which this sunlight would reflect. Actually, we were shooting a daytime scene, but it was happening at night. So he was spending 25 minutes trying to get the perfect light to like bounce off of one surface and hit this little like slice of wood that you can see at the edge of the frame. And I'm looking at him like trying to perfect the perfect reflection. And I'm like, it's like, how is he doing this? And he got it by the end. But that's the amount of detail and thought that works in Joe's mind. Like he, in a very short period of time, he was able to like take in all the sights and sounds and the soul and the character of the area in which he was going to shoot. And then he was able to pour it out through his lens, but not in some like gross, like romanticized way.
No,
You know, it was like the truest, like the barest minimum, but still so poignant and just bursting with character and life and spirit.
yeah, the vibrancy was so
Yeah,
beautiful. The way it's been
yeah,
the vibrancy's been captured.
yeah. I could like I did this exercise with my friends because the trailer came out 2 days ago, and I've watched it with a bunch of friends now, and every single one of them does this thing where they'll, so we've seen it like 10 times, and then we stop
Yeah,
watching it, and then we pause it, and then we just go like frame by frame, and then we'll discuss the frame because everybody is spellbound by the compositions, and they're so, in every frame, no matter if it's like indoors or outdoors, at the theater or at the Rana house, like, or a random shot of the street, like whether it's covered with like smog or not, like it's lit so beautifully, it's got so much vibrancy in it. It's
yeah,
like it could be a shot of somebody's face, but it says so much, or it could be the shot
yeah,
like somebody from the back, like we
yes,
spoke of.
yeah,
But or it could be like two little specks of people like in a giant hall of like the theater, but
yeah.
it's so moving. It's that man, like I am, for the rest of my life I am his like worshiper and believer, and
Yeah.
he's phenomenal. I cannot wait for especially people in Pakistan to go watch this film, because I don't think we recently had the film Kamli come out, and shout out to my colleague and friend Avais Gohar, who was a cinematographer in Kamli, because he also did a breathtaking job. Kind of work that you never see coming out of Pakistan. It had like there's thought behind it. Somebody has sat there and thought about what the story is and what he can do when he picks up the camera, or what's the connection between the two things. And I was so moved by the cinematography in Kamli. And I feel like now that Joyland's going to come out, Pakistan people are again like there. And there was a lot of talk amongst our communities as well about the cinematography, because for the first time there was a Pakistani film that had done something with that. And so I feel like with Joyland, that's gonna be revived, because people are not ready for Joe's work. They're not ready for what he's done, and I cannot wait for like that excitement about the cinematography to pour out of people. Because
such an important aspect of the film, like the emotions that you feel have a lot to do with also the cinematography, like the fact that you're seeing like what you're seeing visually, that's the visual poetry that's been created.
That's pretty on point. Like the way that he would compose something, or the way that he would light something, it would say so much. It's in this film, it's a lot of the time it's like melancholic poetry because of the story, but when it needs to be like for example, that dance sequence, the Biba dance sequence at the theater, it is so freaking powerful. Like it is energizing. It's like something's pulsing and you're pulsing with it. And again, like when he has to do that, he excels at it. When he has to shoot like this really like more, like when he has to capture more morbidity, like he does that so well. It's just it's magic. It's absolute magic.
Like even the scene with the trailer, like when that scene of just the baby, and it just there's so much heart and soul like that goes into like each scene, I thought as well, like that, and that's like the beauty of like the entire film as well. Like it's the storytelling and the performances, and it's also the cinematography, like the cinematography.
I almost wish that I wasn't acting in it, so that I could have been on set just observing Joe. I feel like because I was so caught up in whenever I was on set, on like the scenes that I had to do, and the character that I had to be in, and all of those things, or when I was on set acting, I was acting, and when I wasn't around, I was in the as like a separate space. And I feel like I didn't observe Joe as much as I should have, because the few times that I did, I was learning so much about him, and about how much you can create with so little, or how to like just being generally inspired by his brilliance, just complete brilliance, and how he would approach things, and what he like, how he would experience feelings, and then how he would translate them. And I wish I had more time to like observe that, or just be immersed in that, because it's such a brilliant space to be in. And you're right, all of these things make it so brilliant. And then the other thing that like, I'm obsessed with my own film, Mimi. I have to say, I'm obsessed with it. But like, the other thing,
film now as well. Like honestly, I haven't thought about anything else this month.
But I feel like the other thing that just gets me so excited is the score. Like shout out to Abdullah, because I mean, how brilliant is that? It's gut-wrenchingly just beautiful, and it's simple, and it's open. Like it's not a very like, it's not hectic or busy. It's just
not
like
it's in your face. It's in the like
it's like this subtle it's delicate, which is so perfect for the film, because people are delicate, and their relationships are delicate, and what they're going through is delicate. And so he just did such a beautiful job. I mean, anybody who's seen the trailer so far, they lose their minds over the score, and I'm like, yep, rightfully so. It's extraordinary.
Imagine what they'll be like after watching the film. They'll be like me, like just completely in awe of like the entire thing, like just from the music, from the background score. It's like completely like that sort of emotion. I don't know how to explain it, but you just feel this sense of emotion, and there's like different types of emotions you feel all in the space of 2 hours. And that's the power of this film. Like if a month later you're still thinking about a film, that shows the importance of that film. Like there's films that you would probably like watch and and you'll think about it later, but this film, if it's stuck with you for 30 days and it's still sticking with you, and it went to Cannes, went to TIFF, and then when I went to London Film Festival, I was like, I'm not missing this opportunity. We were in seats A1 and A2, and literally like front row, and so we were really happy about that because I know tickets sold out like really fast. And
Yeah, my own best friend couldn't watch it, by the way. Like
you were
she,
saying, yeah,
yeah,
and
my best friend whose place I was staying at for this festival, she didn't get, like, all three shows sold out. She didn't get to watch it, and then I was telling her, I was like, you should probably just come to Pakistan because that's, or wait till February 24th. So yeah.
I think that's too long though. I think how would you sum up this year for you? Because I just think it's such a joyful year for Joyland.
It's wild. It's
Yeah.
beyond expectations. It's unpredictable. It's joyous. It's thrilling. It's also bittersweet. And it's like, I mean, it's my 30th year, you know, and I couldn't have asked for a better 30th year. Like I traveled to so many parts of the world with this film that I am so proud of, and that is a source of so much joy in my life. And I went with my colleagues, and we got to meet people and talk to people who were moved by it. And it's a once in a lifetime thing. It's a once in a lifetime thing. Like, I was doing very different things last year before I shot this film, and even like after we shot this film, before we found out that, you know, before this ride of like film festivals started, my life looked very different. And it's still, I mean, it hasn't changed drastically, but just the fact that, in terms of how it looks, or my everyday, but I am very aware that I have like an abundance of joy and fulfillment that is exclusively tied to this film, and the people that I've met because of this film, and the places that I've been to. So this year has been, mashallah, say, it's like the greatest year. I feel so unbelievably lucky. And it's so funny, I'm at my friend's place right now, and she was talking to me just a little while ago, and she was like, I always knew that you were going to do this. I told somebody else that, you know, she could be at whatever part of the world, and she's just going to do something big. And I was like, listen, I don't feel this way. It's not like I live my life knowing this, but I see a version of that happening, and it's so precious to me, and I hold it so tightly, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I just want this to grow, and I can't believe that this is happening, because, you know, like, it's my first feature.
Such a
It's
proud
life
moment.
changing. Yeah, it's
Like
life changing. And
proud
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
This
yeah.
entire, like, yeah, and I feel so like proud as well for you. I just feel proud for everyone, and I
Thank you.
honestly, like, I can't tell you, like, you probably know it already now, but I am so excited for like people to watch this as well, like more and more people, because obviously when it gets like it's released in Pakistan, and when it gets released here, like more and more people who haven't been to the festivals will see it. And I just can't wait to talk to people about it. Like, that's the thing. Like, I have to like kind of watch what I say. Don't want to spoil anything for anyone who
Mm,
hasn't. And that's the problem. Like,
yeah,
I'm right now. Like,
I get it fully. We were doing like promotions in
it's so
Pakistan last
difficult for
week for
you.
this
Yeah,
film.
you.
It's so tough. You're in the bind because they want to know about like favorite scenes, or they want to know about chemistry between characters, and you can't give anything away. So
Yeah, because you can't talk
it's
about the scene just in case, like, and the thing is, these some of the interviews that they kind of put them up before the film, so then it's gonna be
yeah.
kind of bad for
Yeah,
people
so
who see the interviews
yeah,
before
so
the film.
I understand your pain. I ruined it for my best friend too, by the way. It's the funniest story. I told her like the thing that happens in Act 3. Okay? I told her the thing. And the thing is, like,
Okay,
I
I
was in
haven't done that
Paris.
yet.
Yeah,
I
good,
haven't
good.
done
But
that yet.
she was we'd finished Cannes, we'd gone to Paris. There's this
Yeah.
one cinema in Paris that was playing some of the Cannes films, including Joyland. She lives in Sweden. She flew all the way. I was like,
Mhm.
I have your tickets. Let's go. We were sitting at a cafe an hour and a half before the screening, and I just blurted it out. And she just stopped, and she looked at me and she said, what did you just say? And I wish I had the
Oh,
wherewithal in that moment to like make something up, or like, and then I was like, it was too late. I was so shocked by the fact that I'd ruined it. And she was like, I
oh,
can't believe there was just an hour and a half left. So I've done that to my best
so
friend. And
embarrassing.
now I
Like,
have to do it.
how
Yeah.
can I take this back? How can I make something good out of what I've just
Yeah.
something he did before? I saw Sherek Bassam as well.
Yeah.
It's so dystopian, and it's just
Yeah.
so cool. You can smile but not laugh. You can
Yeah.
like
The
it's
only one
very
expression that's a smile. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
very strict. Like you
Yeah.
can smile, but you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
And like the sort of the sounds and like the huffing and puffing when the character's running towards the end. Like it's like you feel like I felt like quite like anxious towards the end
Mm,
when I was watching it.
mm,
It kind of made
mm,
me anxious, like when they're huffing and
mm.
puffing running towards
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
That
watched
was, it was meant to
that's
happen. You were meant to experience like a building up of like anxiety and just then straight up dread. And it's interesting because when it starts out, you're like, oh, like look at this cool little city with like flying things and like tall buildings, and this is Pakistan, and it's like glistening and glimmering and wow. And then before you know it, that's what you're feeling. And but yeah, that's I used to work at an animation studio before I did the film. That was our first short animated film, fictional film. And then we did another one just a year after that. That was Swipe. We also put that up. And then since then, we've released two more. We actually worked in collaboration with Project Dastan. They wrote these two scripts. We animated them. And they were screened at BFI in August, I believe.
oh,
Um,
is it the partition stuff that
yes,
Bosch,
yes,
Bosch
yes.
and
Yeah, yeah.
William Dalrymple's son?
Yes, Sam. Yeah, Sam, Sposh, and Sadia. They were and Ollie. They were part of the team that wrote the scripts, and then we animated them. And then so it was two stories. There was one called Rest in Paper that was about a man who's enrolled in the Indian Army, and then partition happens, and he's trying to go home,
Yeah.
but he can't find his home, and he's constantly kind of like a ping pong, like thrown here and there across borders. And then the other one was Seabirds, and it's a story, a Burmese family that was exiled to India, and they build a home there, and it's the grandmother teaching the granddaughter through, well, they're cooking a traditional dish, and while they're cooking it in the kitchen, she retells the story of war, and then what does it mean to be exiled, and what does a home mean. And so both of those we animated at our studio Puffball. And it was the first time we were collaborating in that way, because usually we write, we animate, we produce, we score, we act all indoors, in-house. So we've done those, and now we're working on an experiential horror film set in 1971. And that's much longer than a short film. It's like the longest film that we've ever made or are making. But yeah, that stuff goes
That's
continues
exciting.
on the side. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
very exciting.
I'm looking forward to watching that. That sounds really, really cool. Like, actually, no,
Thank you
that's what I
so
was thinking.
much.
Like the animation is quite haunting as well. Like, this is so like eerie. Like the way it's
Mm.
being, like
Eerie is
it's
a
like,
great word. Yeah, eerie is a
mm,
great word. I think most of the stories that we write at Buffball, especially the ones that I've written with my team, because we like everybody does a little bit of everything, and so when we're writing films as well, it's not one person writing it. We're like all of us together writing it together. But I think the stories that we're usually interested in have to do with some like pain that exists in our history, and but it also is to, we also always want to take it to a direction of like healing, like introspection, and then possibly healing. And it has to do with how we treat one another, how we conceive of things like love and community, and what we prioritize and what we don't, and what we should be prioritizing. And so it's always around those themes, and usually they're very dark and heavy themes. And so with Cherry at the Bus, City of Smiles, like that darkness was very much there. And then when we made Swipe, it was I hope you get to watch that too. The Swipe was very much like a satirical kind of tongue-in-cheeky kind of version of that, which also has like a somber ending, but that was us just kind of using satire to its like best degree. We had a lot of fun with that as well. And so yeah, so I can understand why you would think Share at the Bottom is eerie. And it's so funny because growing up, I'd watched animated films, obviously, like Disney is all of that, and we'd seen so many of those, but I never really, and I would read, so I knew what storytelling can do, but I never really paid attention to animation in the, like how you draw something and the number of frames that you choose and the colors that you choose like the extent to which these things can say so much. And so when I started working at Puffball is when I was a lot like working with people, brilliant Pakistani creators and animators and illustrators, and I learned so much from them about what a stroke of a pen can say, or like how color, or like just like how people move, and how like your backgrounds come together. And like again, like things like composition would obviously exist in live action as well, but they can say so much. Like, so that's why in Cherry at the Bottom you have moments where it's like beautiful, but then it's extremely the same thing becomes very disturbing, claustrophobic, anxiety inducing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we're trying out some really exciting things with our horror film as well, that's gonna hopefully come out by next year. Yeah.
Because I love horror. Like anything horror. Tell me, like, I love it. Like, I can't wait. Like,
Brilliant.
and actually what you're saying is so right. Like, it's like essentially a blank canvas. You're creating everything from scratch. Like, literally live action, there's always a person like doing the acting, but like here you get to create the people, what they look like the actual world you get to create from that blank canvas.
100%. I remember in Swipe we had like, so the main character is this boy, and so we were like, okay, we want this, obviously this kid is young and he needs to look like a bit of an asshole, because you know, like he is addicted to this game at the end of the day, and he's being a douche, right, when he's going and but also like we also need to realize that he's a child and he's been roped into playing this game that's like stealing his innocence. And so we were like, how do we get the space right? Because it's a little bit of a asshole, but like it also needs to have like something in it that you feel for him. So I remember Hasib Rahman, who was Hasib and Umar Umar Khan, who were like in the beginning they were playing around with characters and drawing characters. They gave this character's face, like they went over it so many times trying to get the perfect roundedness of the eyes with the perfect head shape, so that we felt a little annoyed by him, but then our heart would also break for him. And it was just months of drawing this character over and over, because and then every day they'd have a new sheet and we'd look at all these faces and go like, this one. So and at that time it was like they're building a character from scratch, and everything from like how his eyebrows are to how big his eyes are to how they look to how they settle on his nose. Everything about this creature that we're creating, and they have to think about all of it, like how his hair stands or doesn't stand, does it flop, does it it's a whole world.
There's so many good things like coming out of Pakistan, and I love it. Like, it just makes me really proud.
It has been like a really rewarding year for everybody, I feel like, but especially in terms of film, it's been special. I want to be a fly on the wall of like every cinema everywhere and like all over Pakistan at the same time for like 2 weeks, so I can know exactly how people react. I have full plans of like just like a covert operation and then just going and hiding in like cinemas and just watching people. But I want to watch people watching the film, and then I want to hear about how the film made them feel. I also love talking to people about it. Like I said, I'm obsessed with my own film. So
I can imagine you like going to like Emporium Mall and kind of like just going and watching it. I can imagine you doing that, like going to the mall, getting a bite to eat, and it's just like putting a mask on, just going and seeing the film.
For sure. And I will think about my disguise, by the way. I will have a story behind that character. I will come up with the whole disguise, and then I will go. So yeah.
I think you should definitely do that. That would be amazing.
Okay, brilliant.
Like, and you should put it up later and see if anyone recognizes you, thinking, "Oh, I was sitting with you," and then. I think you should definitely do that. That would be such a good idea. Like, go to like different screenings throughout the day. Sit for like 5 minutes. Probably be like, you probably work up a bill though, like going to different screenings, paying for different tickets. But
I'll make it happen. Yeah.
Do at least one, or just go and have a blast. Just.
But say it. Done.
Thank you so much. This has been so fun. Like,
this was just such a fun conversation. It was so cool.
Honestly, like, this is like how I love doing interviews. I don't even call them interviews. I literally just call them conversations, because
it was a chat. It was a chat with samosas, over chai.
Yeah,
so
I know. But
I feel you.
Like, just like literally friends having a chat. about something they've seen, how it's moved them. That's how I like it. Like I don't really like I've seen interviews like all the time, like the way them kind of put people on the spot about something, like what do you think of this? Like kind of being scandalous. I hate that. Like I never want to do that. I always tell people like literally it's just a free flowing chat about like what you've done or what what made you feel, and like
this, which is why this was so much fun, because I didn't like it. There was no expectation and I didn't feel any pressure, and then we were just going whatever the conversation was going, and I didn't feel like I was pressured for time. I just went on, and it was, you were listening, you were an excellent listener, so it's been so fun. This is like a wonderful Sunday activity. And
I think this is amazing. Like actually, well, I only started doing this like 2 years ago, really, like because I actually my background's in law, so I was completely doing something else.
What?
I have a master's in law. I didn't literally, I wasn't even thinking of doing anything like this.
Wow.
It's just kind of like doing this as well, because this really means a lot to me as well. Like talking about how films made me feel, sort of just knowing more about like the person behind the craft as well. And that's exactly why I started.
Now this is wonderful. It's always better when you put on different hats and you tried a bunch of things in life, because then like you pick up things from everywhere. You experience different things, and then all of them inform you, and you can take a little bit of this and add it to there, or vice versa, and it's just a fuller, richer life.
So I'm always going on about like I want to do like something where it's not like there's no like boundary attached. Like you can talk to people all across the world. It doesn't matter. Like you come together because of cinema, and that's important thing. Like you can talk to someone in America, you can talk to someone in New Zealand or India or Pakistan, and everyone just comes together because of that love. And
also if you end up talking to like Ali or Saim after the release, I feel like they'd have like a whole new like bucket of things to share with you, because it would have released in Pakistan. I've received so many messages online, and it's just an outpouring of like intense feelings and thoughts and questions and curiosities and just appreciation and support for the film. So I had like a glimpse of how Joyland did when it was screened in India. So I'm just so excited about Pakistan. I'm so excited.
I'm sure everyone's gonna have the same feeling like when you watch it, because it's like that sort of, you're seeing a reflection of true life, like when you watch it, like that then it'll be like, I think people are definitely gonna resonate with it. Like if I'm resonating with it, and I haven't actually lived in Pakistan ever, I've lived in London all my life, I'm resonating with it. I'm sure like the people of the country it was made in, definitely like, and I think Saim said that. Inshallah, Saim said at the end of the film, he's like, I'm actually more excited about it releasing in Pakistan than the Oscar submission.
100%. 100%.
He said that. I was like, that's such a sweet thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been great, and
it was so fun. Thank you. And really, just like to you, I just, from like my heart, I say this, both to you and Guy, like the way that you guys are just welcomed us to your city, and like, I mean, you didn't have to, but you were like, that you're here, let us photograph you, and then you're here, let us talk to you, and then we'll also go to your screening, and now you've done like this chat with me. So I really appreciate the support and the warmth, and it makes my heart so happy. So thank you.
Thank you. I feel literally the same way about all of you guys. Like,
well, hopefully we shall talk very soon, and I will run into you again as well in February, fingers crossed. But yeah, brilliant. No, but have a great Sunday, and I'll talk to you very soon. Okay.
You too. Have a great Sunday.
Bye.